For us now, it is rewriting that narrative and what suits our family, and that is for William to be happy, because we know that if we are happy, William is happy. When William was about 18 months old, I noticed that he wasn't talking, like he wasn't speaking words, and I remember that other children his age were reaching particular milestones, and William wasn't. And it wasn't just talking, it was like even physically he wasn't reaching certain milestones that he was supposed to reach at 12 months or 13 months and so on. And then I started to get a real strong feeling that something wasn't right. Mayana was born when William was 12, and 6 months in,
12 months.
When he was 1, Mayana was born. And so I could see Mayana also reaching certain milestones that William wasn't at that age. And then the worry there just grew and grew. And I knew at that point that I started going on Dr. Google, and autism seemed to be the thing that came up the most. And I knew nothing about autism at that time. And the more I researched, the more I understood that William needed to see a specialist.
I think for me it was a bit different because I was still in denial when Cynthia said that she feels like William might have a disability or might be on the spectrum. I think as a firstborn, you're always excited. Like you're like, man, can't wait. This is our first, this is our first child, and we couldn't. And I had already envisioned things in my mind, like like when fathers take their sons to the park and kick the ball around and stuff like that. And I think that was always a dream that I had growing up. And then I think I sort of had to be like, oh, like, can I still do that with William? It was, I think it was tough, I think, for me at that time. When someone had a disability, it was sort of frowned upon, like in Pacific culture sometimes. And I remember when I lived in Tonga for a year, there were kids with disabilities, and they'll get mocked a lot. And I think for me it was like, trying to just not understanding it, but at the same time hoping that he didn't have a disability, because I didn't want him to go through that. But I think that's where it sort of stemmed from. It was like the unknowing, and also the fear that, just the fear of him struggling as when he gets older, or people mocking him or seeing him in a different way.
He's my brother, and he is autism. Like they can't speak properly. They're thinking, why is he crying in the middle of the shop? Be nicer. Be nicer to but I think it's just a problem because they haven't met an autism person before. That's why they're like wondering why is he crying like that.
It's still a struggle. So William's been diagnosed with, he's quite severe on the spectrum. So he's something called low functioning, and that means he needs a lot of help. And because he's still not, he's not verbally, like he's not talking to us, and he's not saying sentences, but he's showing he's communicating through other forms. So for me, life now, it comes with its new challenges. So it's not like it's easier now or harder now. It's pretty much the same, but it's like it's always changing. I always talk to Dana about, I feel like sometimes we're moving a step forward and then 3 steps back. And that's like our life. So it's like we're never ever really, doesn't ever really feel like we're moving. And it's just like inch by inch. I know that Dana talked about how it almost felt like we were mourning the loss of what we envisioned for our son before he was born, when he was in my tummy. You know what I mean? We already had these goals and dreams for him. And when that diagnosis, when I understood that those things were not going to happen for him, I felt a lot of guilt as a mother. Like, what did I do? Yeah. I love my son, but sorry, I think it's just guilt about what I might have done to him.
I think once we've sort of found out that this was going to be like a lifetime thing, because at first, like, I sort of thought, oh yeah, maybe probably just his early years, and then he'll grow out of it. That was my sort of thinking. But then after probably coming to the realization that, yep, this is gonna be us for the rest of our life. Like, then we had to cater our whole life around him. And we even had to sacrifice friends, sacrifice some family, just because it was hard to sort of like explain all the time. And we sort of felt distant sometimes, because families could do normal, well, like they could go to the restaurant and have a feed with their family. They could go to the movies, and where we couldn't do that, because anything could trigger William. We could be at a restaurant and he could just have a meltdown, and without us knowing what triggered it.
Right now, in this moment, I feel supported by family and friends, but I don't feel as supported by, I guess, the system. And I say that as in, like, I feel like I really have to fight to get the bare minimum for William. I wanted William to be able to talk, like have a conversation with him. This is when he was first diagnosed. Like, that was my dream, right? That we could have a conversation. Now, it's for William just to be able to be happy. It's gone from that being the goal to now looking at William as a whole and realizing that, hey, these things that I wanted him to achieve, they're based on the norm, those milestones, that narrative. But for us now, it is rewriting that narrative and what suits our family, and that is for William to be happy, because we know that if we are happy, William is happy.
I think at first it was talking, because he's 9 and he's still non-verbal, and he only says like one word here and there. Like, man, I remember I used to long for the day, like, where I'd hear him say, you know, like, love you, dad, or like, love you, mum, or and that was something that I'd wish for. Like, I waited so long, you know, and I'm still waiting for that day. But I think the older William gets, you start to see the bigger picture. And I think for me, the aspiration will be for him to be happy, and be accepted, not only um, from like just everyone, but just like the community and like the public. You know, if you see a a kid having a meltdown, you know, don't be so quick to judge. Like, don't be so quick to like, oh, you know, they're bad parents. Why they're not looking after him, or why they're not keeping him quiet at church when he makes, you know, noises. Yeah, I would hope that people will be more accepting of William.
Willie could talk tomorrow. All of a sudden he could speak.
Mhm.
How do you think he would describe your relationship with him?
I would hope that he thought that I tried my best. It's like any father, you know, you want your kids to think like you're a superhero sometimes. And I would hope that I would be his hero, and that he knew that I did love him.